Ghost Chronicles, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Stories of the Supernatural. Wherever you find us, whether it's a video or podcast on your favorite platform, please like and subscribe to us so that you can get notification of when a new show is released. You can also find us on major social media platforms. If you go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com, you can find links to the videos or MP3 files, which you can download and enjoy without commercial interruptions. If you're into classic horror, ghost, and adventure stories, I narrate Nightshade Diary, and you can find links at nightshadediary.com. If scary stories are your bag, and listening to encounters with cryptids, ghosts, dogman, and other weird creatures sends a shiver up your spine, then go to supernaturalstorytime.com for links to our weekly podcasts. Noteworthy news about the paranormal world, true crime, conspiracy stories, and anything that is just plain weird can be found at eerie.news or visit the Stranger Than Fiction Stories tab at MiamiGhostChronicles.com. Please subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. Just go to mppellicer.com for a link. I want to thank you for being part of my audience, and I think you are all wonderful.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Good, I hope. Yes. You know what? I have to laugh because whenever I look at that intro, believe it or not, the best part for me is Jack Nicholson's face when he's looking at the girl that he was just kissing. It was like, yeah, that's perfect. I never get over that. I love it just for that little part. But anyway, how's everybody doing? Everything is good over here. I'm going to try. My first announcement, guys, is that, and I mentioned it in my last show, that I was working on my Sybil Chronicles novel, and then an article morphed into another book. Okay, let me see if I can show it to you guys. Okay, and it's not going to work. You know what? I'm trying so hard to make this work, and it's not working. You know what? Because it's whatchamacallit. Let me see. You know what? I wanted to show. You know what? If I can't show it, I can't show it. What can I say? You know, it's one of those things that sometimes things don't cooperate. Stop sharing. Anyway, you know, I'll put it out on my Substack, and I'll put it on, you know, all the different social media and all that stuff. You know, the cover. I'm going to be releasing it soon. It's called The Phantoms of the Follies, and it talks about all these, you know, Ziegfeld Follies was a big deal back in the turn of the century and into the 20s because this was the time of, you know, Prohibition, the Flappers, G-Men, and Ziegfeld Follies. Flo Ziegfeld decided to come up with the bright but not original idea of having this show full of beautiful girls, very scantily clad, which, as a matter of fact, many of them did pose nude for famous photographers and artists of that day. And basically, if you were a young lady that was tapped by Mr. Ziegfeld to become one of his girls, you were propelled into stardom, equivalent to back then. This was also, remember, the time of vaudeville. You were, all of a sudden, all the millionaires were paying attention to you. But anyway, the book centers around all these girls. Usually they had a review, basically a show that ran for like 3 or 4 months. And then, but once you were part of the Follies, it even, you know, you were forever written as, even if you left as, and a lot of them transitioned into silent film, and then into, some of them became major motion picture people. One example is Marion Davies, who was Hearst's mistress for many years. Some of them made good, others didn't. And that's what the book is about, because there was a story that there seemed to be a curse that would hang over these girls that were part of the Follies. And you know what? You could say, well, you know what? Of course, something's always going to happen. Nobody leads a perfect life. But when you look at the numbers of the girls, and that's what the book's about, that talked about, I'm not talking really tragic, horrific ends or circumstances. It's like, wow, it almost makes you want to think that there was something going on as far as a curse. In other words, there was a price to pay for becoming a Ziegfeld Follies girl. And as a matter of fact, the theater, which was taken over by Disney like in the 90s, which used to be the New Amsterdam on Broadway, is said to be haunted by one of them. But I'm not going to give my whole book away, but I'll have a link and just keep an eye out for it. As far as when I release it, I might have a giveaway on that. So, etc., etc., etc. All right, let's get on to the good part. Okay, now the good part has to do with who our guest is tonight. And this is the first time for this gentleman on the show. His name is Bryan Bowden. He was born and raised in New York City. And he set out on a path of architectural engineering, but succumbed to the reality that business was his future, even though he had a love for sciences. And he managed to squeeze in physics and astronomy while studying finance, and graduated from Pace University with a degree in international finance with a minor in emerging markets. Bryan would use his talents by initially working with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and World Bank regarding solving the third world debt problems, but ultimately spending his career with top-tier broker-dealers. I could have a separate show with Bryan just about the state of the economy of the world, but it has nothing to do with the paranormal. Anyway, as a child, Bryan experienced some unusual events that drove his curiosity and would later propel him into becoming a boots-on-the-ground UFO, cryptid, and paranormal researcher and investigator. Since 1977, he has used his spare time to explore those areas of interest, traveling the world in pursuit of the truth. His experiences in the paranormal realm cover the gambit of the Goblin Universe, from encounters with Sasquatch, Dogman, and spirits to several UFO experiences. Each has been the driving force in his quest for more knowledge and ultimately answers. He was the first draft pick for essential members of the team and joined the Bronxville Paranormal Society's BPS. At its inception, he took the helm as a Chief Information and Technology Officer and Director. He has brought an entirely fresh perspective and process to the paranormal field and investigations, culminating in revolutionary results. He is the creator, producer, and co-host of the critically acclaimed Beyond the Realms radio show. He's a published author, musician, and artist. He left a career in Wall Street to start a think tank and pursue business development on a global scale. Bryan Bowden has been a speaker and presenter at many paranormal and cryptid conferences throughout the United States. He started the Paranormal Center and is a former member of the board for the Pine Bush UFO Festival and Conference. He's conducted several successful CE5 events, all of which have brought contact to the many who attended. He is currently a member of the IRVA, the International Remote Viewers Association, the founder and director of both NYSUFOP, which is New York State UFO Project, and NYSSO, New York State Sasquatch Organization, the director of the North American Dogman Project, New York State chapter, and is the North American correspondent for Outer Limits magazine. He is the co-host of Inside the Goblin Universe radio program with Ronald Murphy and host of the NoBoBuMe, which stands for Nobody But Me. He also has several appearances on Dave Scott's Spaced Out Radio and has also appeared in numerous newspaper articles, independent films, television series, and a variety of top-tier podcasts. He has been a speaker and presenter at many conferences throughout the United States. He recently signed with Quarter 13 Talent Management, which will handle his public appearances and bookings in the future. He's also appeared in a season of Red Earth Uncovered, a Canadian series that will begin in the USA in 2021, and also appeared on Into the Unknown, a new paranormal series on the Travel Channel hosted by Cliff Simon. He filmed for the upcoming UFO documentary Star Children of Pi, New York, and just finished filming a 2-hour UFO special for the Travel Channel Discovery Plus called Alien Invasion Hudson Valley UFO, and is on season 2 of UFO Witness. Bryan is working on a series of new books based on his experiences, investigations, and theories, as well as a few children's books and short stories. His latest publication, Words and Muses, A Lyrical Life of Poetry, is on sale at Amazon. He is currently developing new intellectual property for both television and the big screen, as well as scheduling investigations, conferences, and events for the year ahead. And as you can tell, I'm very lucky that I got Bryan to come on the show because he's busy. How are you doing today, Bryan?
I'm doing really good. I'm actually even busier because my bosses, which is the wife and my two daughters, they take precedent over anything else right now.
See,
so I know where my bread's buttered and where it's like the land. What is it, the Alamo? I'm surrounded and
forget it. Give it up. It's like forget it. I can't overcome this.
But in the process of moving from New York to Florida, I've had a couple of UFO experiences, and we can go into that.
Right, we're going to go into that because I told him, welcome to Florida. Yeah, I'm a native Floridian. Okay, but let me tell you something. when I see some of these places in the United States, and for a few years now, you're like, places go through, periods, and then they get better. But I've been watching different places, and I'm like, right about now, I'd be like getting the heck out of Dodge, and and I was telling him that we meet a lot of people here in Florida from the Northeast states, a lot. But traditionally you would hear about the Northeast coming when they were older to retire, to escape but we're seeing all ages. A lot of people here.
There's a lot of people here. I want to get my cars registered and my license so I can criticize all the New Yorkers coming down, because I'm not, I left because of what changed up there dramatically. It's almost it's like, it's a little bit like Star Wars, I guess I'm on the rebel side, which is the pure American side. I follow what the founding fathers, crafted, life, liberty, pursuit of health and happiness, versus some of these people that they are just imposing their will on people. So they're like the empire.
I've said it jokingly, but it's not. And I say, I wonder if John Carpenter was having a psychic moment when he did that movie Escape from New York. Because when you looked at it, it was like a great sci-fi dystopia future thing. Like, wow, what was it? Manhattan was a penal colony. Wow.
It's a prison, basically. And I have to tell you, we're fast approaching that. I did work on Wall Street for a while. And I can tell you right now that every firm that makes up Wall Street is in Florida now.
I imagine, what does that mean? That Wall Street is just is in the rearview mirror?
Yeah, Wall Street is just a street. And what they're going to do is, because they can't get companies to stay in New York anymore, they know what's going to come. It's going to be taxes, it's going to be whatever. Yes. Not to get political. But so everything from Wall Street has moved down to Florida. That's why everybody has moved to Florida. A lot of them.
Every time, every once, I'll look at the New York Post online, because sometimes I have, and it doesn't, and of course, the New York Post, they have a lot of stories about New York. I hate to say it, and I'm not saying this is only New York, but there's horrible crimes being committed against regular citizens. Okay, people getting killed, punched, slapped, stabbed, thrown in front of a train. It's like all the time. It's like, what's going on there? I don't know how regular people, I wouldn't leave my house. I wouldn't be able to leave. It'd be like, that's kind of scary, and nothing. And of course they have that no bail thing, I think, going on, which is,
it's not only New York that has it. It's the ideology and philosophy of the leadership, not only in New York, but you get the West Coast version, California, and other areas that where major cities are, and they're dictating to what you do, and people don't want to live underneath that. And,
let me ask you something, Brian. And I guess my question is, even if you were one of these people that at some point voted in some of the people, the people in the government that are making these decisions, isn't there some point that these people are being victimized themselves? Aren't they going, wait, this is not what I thought it was going to be?
See, this is why I think we've jumped to getting into the paranormal. We've messed around with timelines because growing up, we always had there was always this moments of ire and anger, and it gets to a certain point, and then we just go back to normal. Like, okay, we're Americans, we're allowed to blah blah blah.
Sure,
and we
exactly.
This is just keeps going and going, and it's like, seriously, there's like 50 pink elephants in the room right now, and they're sitting on your chest, and the majority of these people can't. Why can't I breathe? Oh, it must be that side of the political party.
That guy that worked in the bodega, that if it wasn't for the outrage, he got accused. Well, he was arrested. I'm sorry, he was charged. He was going to get charged with murder.
He was defending his life.
Yep. And here he is. When you look at the video, this guy is basically working inside a business.
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, and one of the last things I heard, I think he was moving. I think he was Dominican, and I heard something that he was leaving back to Santo Domingo, and I was like, I wouldn't blame him. I'd be like, I'm out of here, bye. Yeah. And I'm thinking, at what point when I say regular people, I mean people just maybe at some point that they're thinking, whatever, and then all of a sudden, this is like a nightmare scenario when you hear some of the stories of what's happening there.
I have to be honest, talking about timeline jumps. I'm a student a bit of history. I like history. I like the information. I remember, a lot of it.
Right.
And there are so many correlations to what's taking place right now that took place in the 40s with Nazi Germany, the rise of Nazi Germany, with people, Germany at the time had probably the largest population of PhDs.
Really?
And they allowed to happen what they allowed to happen, which committed, horrific crimes against humanity with a multitude of people just because of race or social preference, whatever it is. It's happening right now.
Well, because,
and no one wants to point to it.
You hear a lot about what happened to Germany after World War One. All right, where basically, without knowing the details, the economy was broken. People, it was very difficult, and
Yep, sounds familiar, doesn't it?
yes, and people were like, people, and I hate to say it, that saying, "Desperate measures, desperate times require desperate measures."
Yep.
People were doing horrific things sometimes because
But
they
look,
were
starving.
existing. Starving.
Yeah, they have kids that are hungry. They don't have any money. Their money's worth nothing. But this is the reason why, and I'm going to swing it into the UFO game.
Yes.
We have a lot of sightings of UFO. They actually have picked up in the last year globally.
Right.
And a couple of people that are trusted abductees
that
have been abducted. It's virtually proven they are abductees or experiences, if you like, today. They have come back, where they're actually having an interaction. They're so in tune on a vibration that the extraterrestrials or the beings are like, okay, this one gets it. And a lot of them, the statement or the thought that they have come back to this point in time because they want to witness something that's going to take place has been present in multiple people that have been abducted. They said this is a really crucial time. And it's not only UFO based, a lot of people who believe in the reincarnation or the fact that
like a pattern.
With multiple, just like Dante has the Inferno with multiple levels of hell, there's multiple levels of heaven. The higher you go, the closer to the source. I'm going to call the source God because I believe in God. I don't want to call it source. It's God, right? And depending on how bad you were is where you fit in the level. And then you're given an opportunity. You're shown what's going on and given an opportunity to say, well, you can continue here and kind of study and learn and move, exist. Or you can try to redeem yourself. You go back in time. A lot of people have chosen, even the people at the highest level that are like, yeah, we're here. They've chosen to come back to this very moment in time to witness what's going to take place. So, and I've done a remote view of what's taking place for the last 2 years. I haven't done it this summer yet, but I usually say 6 to 18 months. There's going to be a major thing taking place.
Well, this is the thing. A little bit over 100 years ago, which, we had World War I, and we kind of jumped in there at the end, is also when we had the Spanish flu, which wiped out millions of people worldwide. All right?
Right.
And as a matter of fact, that flu came to the United States via the soldiers returning to the United States from the fields in Europe.
Yeah.
All right. And what was unusual also about the Spanish flu is that it's normally you think of the older people being more vulnerable. The Spanish flu was taking out young people. It was a weird thing. All right. And it's so funny that you say that repetition or that pattern.
It's happening, but here's the difference between what took place in the 20s and the Spanish flu. And so the longer you lived, the more immunity you have.
Sure.
In concept.
Of course.
Okay?
Exactly.
And that's why it was affecting the younger so much quicker. They didn't have the salt underneath them. Like grandpa is lived for 85 years.
His immunities are,
Yeah, he's been sucking on meat that's been sitting in the sun for 3 weeks. He's fine,
Yeah.
The difference between what took back then in relationship to a virus is, and I'm going to state it, because this is something, I'm going to preface this. I have a lot of friends and family members that are doctors, surgeons, nurses, head nurses in the medical field. It's always been an interest to me. And they are all absolutely pissed off at me because they know I should have been a doctor. I am.
Okay.
I'm very, very into the medical and the science side. I did study astrophysics and astronomy, and I was thinking about it, astrophysics at one time. And the reason why I didn't go into medicine is because I got to be honest, I don't want to be in a hospital ever.
There you go.
Okay?
I don't blame you.
I love helping people, but I don't,
Yeah.
So one of the things I studied, and this was about 20, I'm going to go over 20 years ago, when Robert Malone's paper came out.
Yes.
On mRNA. So I actually was reading it, the paper. It's industry. I was like, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the magic bullet. This is what we need. This is what we've been waiting for.
Right.
The thing that's going to cure everybody. And then you start reading and you're like, okay. And then it unlocks things that it shouldn't have unlocked. I'm like, ooh, that's not good. And then it started cancers that were never there in your genetic profile.
Right.
And then animals started dropping dead. Everything dropped dead. Okay?
It's like
so fast forward to the 2019, 2020, whatever.
Right.
I was following, I follow and support the people in Hong Kong and Taiwan because they're entitled to their freedom.
Sure.
And all these people used to stand up and wave the American flag at one point and sing the national anthem. How can you not support these people?
Yeah.
And during that time, about 2018, 2019, people were dying. There was something like going around that area, and many people were dying. Specifically, men were dying versus women. And I remember the report coming on. The scientist goes, "This is a very strange virus because it seems to be targeting Pan-Asians from X."
I remember that. I remember that.
So, and I stopped myself and I said, holy blank, the Chinese are killing their people.
Right.
Right? So if you go back to my Facebook post, you'll see around 2019, I had a Facebook post, I think it's in September, it said, the Chinese government is about to give the United States the greatest gift of all, manufacturing. Because we're going to have to start making... Yep, we're
right. All those factory workers were going to be
right. So, but we fast forward, we find out different things. This isn't something that was here. It's been proven over and over again around the world. This was a man-made type of product.
Sure.
And unfortunately, people died. And there's ways, and I'm not going to get into. I don't want to get into the political side or anything. There's things that could have been done that were mentioned. That people, had they taken it, we would have been out for 30 days and then life would have been fine.
Exactly.
So I think that's why, like, when we see all this turmoil between the sciences and then the leaders of the world and this, what they're trying to form, the conflicts, extraterrestrials are very interested in what's going on here because they have a vested interest in it. If you're not aware of the extraterrestrials, this is well over 300 species, about 250 that we're absolutely guaranteed know about. And they're not here to save the planet and help the people. Some people will say that.
And I know that. And I'm thinking to myself, I know that's a nice thought, I guess is what I'm getting to, but
it's like that, when you said it was John Carpenter, well, Gene Roddenberry mentioned a couple of times, and you can look this up, that he felt he was contacted by something that told him, encouraged him to write Star Trek, right?
There you go.
So maybe there's a lot of influence in what we're seeing in movies. The best way to deliver that is through entertainment purposes, right? So just like, and we'll talk about disclosure, and there was disclosure well before disclosure. So all this is taking place right there, and it's just they're interested in protecting their best interest, which is trying to prolong or get their race to go forward. See, most of these entities that are extraterrestrial, their races are dying off. They've killed their planets. They've made the mistakes we've made for whatever reason. And they love humans because we have the perfect DNA and junk DNA that you could use as a base to expand their species. So you get an extraterrestrial human, they breed. Then you get an extraterrestrial human, you breed again. And then over time, you will put out, it's all in sciences, you'll put out pure extraterrestrial versus pure human.
Right.
And it's all through the DNA. If they're here and someone starts messing with DNA through injections or whatever, or medicines, that affects them. So
Sure.
I don't believe in the Galactic Federation that most people promote.
The Prime Directive?
You know what? I just had this image in my head of a long table with all these different creatures, like something out of the Star Wars Cantina.
Right. Yeah.
And one of them gets up and like, okay, so are we having Chinese or pizza tonight? You know, that's it. I don't see that they're not here, and they know what we are, and they know we need to evolve. And some of them are alluding to it, trying to help speed that process up. But it's all for their best interest, not ours. Eventually, it will be for ours.
Well, basically, what you're saying is that they're harvesting us for our genetic materials.
Yes, pretty much. And you know, we've done this before. I mean, I think you're of the age where you remember Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Absolutely. Marlon Perkins.
Yep. And you remember, you know, they always send Jim out into the field. And Jim, you know, he's in his little, and he's got the rifle, and he's, they shoot off, you know, at an elephant, they land, they take the sperm, they tag it, they bag it, they put it out. Yeah. And the next time when they want to track the elephant, they get out the big, you know, box with the big antennas.
Sure.
Well, now we use RFIDs. So it's the same principle. They're probably trying to help to breed the species, us as humans, but they're also trying to save their own lives.
Let me ask you, do you think that they have had any input, like in the invention of the CRISPR and genetic, that we've been able to decode the genome, etc.? Or was 100%. That us just being intelligent? Yeah, you think that they had a hand in that?
A lot of what you got scientifically has been, it's through reverse engineering, and also what they do with this is, I'll give you an example. There's a guy, and I still believe him. He is not the bad guy that they portrayed him to be. Right now, he's in prison. His name's Stan Romanek. Okay. Stan has like a 5th grade math education. He predicted element 115 multiple decades before they even came up with it. Okay. He started drawing engines, and look at some of his designs. The calculations he used to write out, someone who, it wasn't around the internet, it wasn't any of that stuff. He was writing out formulas that have yet to be discovered by scientists in the future. So what I do believe, and he's a multiple times abductee, what I do believe is they were implanting him, because there's a lot of abductees that they start remembering their experiences, and they see a screen, looks like a TV, and images start flashing by. Well, we use this in the military. The Air Force uses it. You go in a room, you focus on a screen, and they just start sending images one right after the other. It speeds up, and you're actually retaining it. That's how you could do books. You could read a book that way.
Yeah, your subconscious captures everything. Yeah.
Right. There's an app that will show you you load the book in, and it'll go, dog can beep, bop, bop, bop.
And you read it, yeah.
Yeah, you're done in like 15 minutes. So this is the same principle. And he starts to remember these things, or is allowed to, and he's showing this to the world. So I do believe that there is an influence. That's one influence. The other influence is the reverse engineering we did from Roswell, the crashes that we recovered, and the alien bodies, and
do you really think that Roswell, because sometimes I hear Roswell was real, other times I've heard that Roswell, that as far as especially the alien bodies, not that there was a crash, but that if they did recover extraterrestrial remains, do you think they did?
100%. I'm almost 100% positive that alien bodies, like deceased, were recovered as well as live. There's way too much. After Roswell, everything ramped up dramatically. We went from 0 to 1 billion instantaneously. And I do believe that we made an agreement with a specific race of aliens to get information, and then that we allowed them to abduct people for their purposes, without going crazy. But yeah, I do believe that Roswell it's important because it happened and we recovered things. I don't go into, either you believe it or you don't.
Right.
People make a big deal like Roswell. It's like,
right,
okay, I got
exactly.
it. it crashed. But that really started us on this program. And then what happened is that's in the 40s when we did Operation Paperclip, we pretty much liberated to the U.S. the large portion of German scientists,
right,
like von Braun, who they, if I tell you they were in under 30 minutes, that's how fast they could have won the war. That they were that close. They invented nuclear weapons. They had hypersonic weapons. They were still tested. They were that close. And when von Braun was asked, if you bring him into the mix, when von Braun was asked by a reporter, like, you were so close, where did you get this technology from? And he goes, from them.
Wow.
And he pointed up. And I don't
Right.
think he was talking about God and angels. He's talking about
Right.
extraterrestrials. So put these things together in the past and then spread it out. So I'm going to give you a portion to study, but I'm not going to tell you what X, Y, and Z is getting either.
Right. Yeah.
And I know whatever. Okay, then you're going to come in your results, and then we come together. Then we have Blu-ray discs, we have laser discs, we have
Yes.
transformers, we have totally different electric grid and system. There is a. You want to talk about a rumor? The United States of America. Last time I kind of checked that, I was talking to a third party about it. We are probably 150 years ahead, technology-wise, than every country in the world combined.
Are we talking everyday technology, or are we talking stuff that we don't even know about?
Buck Rogers type of technology, like
Really?
Stargate kind of tech, like time travel, wormholes. Yeah,
And the reason why I say this is that now they'll show you a film of sub-Saharan Africa, and here are the natives with the villagers with a cellular phone. It's like, hold on, it's like, all right.
Hold on, I'm on camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hold on, I've got my speaker and my phone.
No, we're that far ahead. And when you mentioned disclosure earlier, I always got a lot of, pardon the expression, crap, because I made the following statement. If I was the president of the United States of America or the world leader, I would never currently reveal what kind of technology we have and whether UFOs are real or not real, because we have too many enemies that exist on this planet. It's not in our best interest. Okay, and my job is to protect the health, well-being, safety, and security of American citizens.
Let me ask you, are you saying then that you think that these extraterrestrials have worked only with the United States versus the entire world?
Nope, not at all. So they do what we do. We hedge our bets, right?
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you have one of the biggest entities. And when I say people, and I apologize, it's just a common natural thing to do. The reptilian-based entities, the ones that look like giant lizards, like flea stacks from Land of the Lost or whatever. They're pretty massive in size. They're upwards of 9, 10. They're big. Their IQ's off the charts. They're very, very smart, and they're super aggressive. They want what they want, and other races keep each race in check. It's a giant game of chess, and they know it because they know what these entities are capable of, and they're not going to allow that. But they've gotten involved in the U.S. They've gotten involved in China. They've gotten involved all around the world. Other entities, other races have made their presence known all around the world. And they're a lot of them are playing catch up because we've had this for such a long time.
Let me ask you, because I know I'm sure you're familiar with Ancient Aliens and, where they discuss ancient civilization. There you go. You got to mess that up. Yeah, like George. That's everybody. Nobody remembers his name, but they'll say, the guy with the messed up hair.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his last name.
I'm the Giorgio, blah, blah, blah. It's a
Giorgio
very, very Greek.
Or whatever it is.
I was like, But, back then, they're explaining how all these ancient, pre-Judeo-Christian civilizations were visited by extraterrestrials. Do you think those were different ones? Like those were there, came then, left, and we've got a new set now?
It's funny. I would say I just can't help. It's got to be aliens.
Yeah.
No, I actually, I believe that we are the probably ninth, 10th, 11th incarnation of what took place on this planet. I
Okay.
believe there's been technology and civilizations well before ours. It's kind of
Okay.
like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is the best
Sure.
example. You know,
Okay.
bring a towel, and they have to recreate the Earth. No, move that bone to the left a little. You know, that's how we had it before.
Right.
We're discovering things through
Yeah, of
archaeological
course, that
digs,
predate, like I know
like
the
like
earliest.
like a cell phone, like a clamshell cell phone. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen the pictures of it,
Right.
and we're like, how did this happen? Now, you could have time traveled, right?
Right.
Okay, you could have went back in time, dropped the phone by accident, whatever, or you could have had, other vehicles, other civilizations that started, and then after a while they just killed themselves, and so they started again, and I think there is a higher power. There is a God. I think there are seraphs and angels, and that's one end of it. But I don't know how extraterrestrials play into that whole mix
Do
because
you
I've always
believe? Let's go down that thing since I know
let's
that. Do you
go
believe in Atlantis then? Or
100%. I'll give you. I've been studying this for a while. So
okay.
Atlantis has been seen, or a city like Atlantis has been seen in numerous different locations.
Right.
If you study the history of Atlantis, I'm not going to go into the direct things, and
Right.
and the individuals, the entities, or the Atlanteans came out were described very weird. They were very human-esque, very tall. I think there were something along the lines of the eyes were bluish, and they had almost like a webbing in their hands,
Okay.
and they were very forthcoming with information and knowledge. They gave a lot of knowledge. They were
Okay.
very, very smart in what they do. And if you listen to the description of Atlantis, there's like a center core, and then
Right.
there are these outer rings that came out with water in between them. Okay,
Okay.
and Atlantis, violent earthquake, and it sinks to the ocean. Right. I have a feeling, and this is my opinion, that what people are describing and what they were seeing is a USO. It's under unidentified submersible object, which is a UFO underwater, and
Okay.
it rose. The entities came out.
Okay.
They just had the ship up there. They started interacting with the individuals, trying to teach
Okay.
them and trying to get this information to make them smarter, more intelligent, to whatever. And then it got to a point where they may have been, a higher power of them said, nope, you can't do this. You're not allowed to interfere. And violence, and the ship sinks back down into the water and transfers to another location.
Do you then think, because there's a version where basically the Atlanteans, that their technology got away from them, and
That's
they caused the
yeah,
destruction of that the place was wiped out, and then you had a few that got that
yep.
left.
That was the problem. That's what I'm saying previously. These different civilizations that may have appeared before we are what we are right now.
Right.
It seems like we always get to an event horizon, right? That point,
Yes.
and we just F it up. It's like,
Right.
come on,
Right.
instead of going down that, like, look, this is really good. We can change people's lives and make their lives better through genetic manipulation, and it's fine without ruining the genetic, code. We can just recode it, and heal people. Someone always has to use it to have power on top of somebody else. And I think that's what happens.
Well, you know what? Let's go with that premise of, whether
Sure.
it's Atlanteans or whatever. It almost seems like there's very few people that make the decision to go where they shouldn't. And the rest of us are like, hey, you know what I mean? The rest of us, I mean, the regular people are like, wait. In other words, it's always that either the need for power, control, riches, whatever, or everything together. And the rest of the regular people get pulled in to sometimes, if you go based on that, horrific results, because
Yep. And then you get one side fighting the other side, and then
yes,
they get to a point where there are so many different areas around the globe that they've discovered where the only thing that scientifically could have happened there
Right.
is a nuclear related accident or
Okay.
or an explosion. Okay. And we're talking, 10 million years ago. So the shelf life of radiation is like 83,000 years or whatever. I forgot I don't remember the science on it. So but they detect certain things there that are only detectable when they've exploded nuclear bombs. And I don't want to trigger anybody with this. Right. So let's say something happened with Atlantis. Someone just, they were being attacked or they gave out too much information and it backfired on them.
Right.
They got to get out of Dodge. They set off a device. It kills people. They sink to the bottom and they go to another area.
Exactly right. Which is what, that's what you hear, as far as that. The remnants of the Atlanteans, they went to different parts of the world.
Right.
The few that could get out of there, almost like Pompeii is like everybody else got.
Yeah.
And let me ask you real quick, when you said that thing about the genetics, that now they're trying to, like Jurassic Park style, bring back like the Tasmanian devil and the dodo bird. And I'm thinking, why are they? I mean, I understand the concept that supposedly the extinction of these animals was caused by man, not a natural extinction. But do you really think that's a good idea? And the reason why I'm asking is I think that's a slippery slope downward.
No, I don't think it's a good idea. I think that if you could use that same genetics to take species that are in the endangered species list and keep them going from this point forward, it's great. But see, scientists get off on the science and the result, and there's very few that have a what's that? I forgot the term, like where they know what the right and wrong is. Okay.
Right.
And a lot of them are like, they just love pushing the envelope. Well, what happens if we take a monkey and a dolphin and let's make a monkey dolphin jellyfish? Okay, great. They make a monkey dolphin jellyfish. Why?
Exactly.
Or I'm not a fan of genetically modified anything, even crops, because it's not supposed to be that way.
Well, there, as a matter of fact, they're even doing, in Siberia, they've recovered mastodons and mammoths with basically frozen. They've been able to tissue on them, in other words.
Oh yeah, they're trying to bring those back.
Right, and they're going to plug in the holes with, they said, the DNA of Indian elephants versus African elephants because they studied them, and that's even more compatible.
They're closer.
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I think that's when you watch the movie, it's like, wow, but again, I know we're going here into movie land, but I wouldn't be impossible where 10, 20, 30 years from now, somebody does decide to bring back a dinosaur or something that is going to eat us. How's that?
I am sure they have, and I'm sure they tried.
You think that's already happened?
I'm, you know what? The things they're doing genetically, they can't help but do. They have to bring back. You know what? Let's bring back Tyrannosaurus Rex. Let's bring it back.
Right. Wow. You know what? You remember in the first Jurassic Park where the attorney that goes into it gets up eaten by the T-Rex. Once he goes on the trip, he goes, "We're going to be making so much money." You remember that part?
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of people involved in stuff like that. What you're describing that are having we're going to make so much money out of this, and then of course,
right. But that's the whole thing. It's like how much is enough?
Exactly. That's the problem that the rest of us get dragged into results when it gets away from whoever was the genius who gave a green light to this.
Pterodactyls, right? So they have pterodactyls. They have thunderbirds, which really existed.
Right.
Large birds. Pterodactyls, we don't know. We make assumptions that pterodactyls they only hunted X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
We don't know what these things have done.
Right.
We don't know if a plesiosaurus is just an herbivore.
Of course
we're
not.
Assuming.
Right. Unless we could do the stomach contents, there's no way to know.
And it's just like when when I research, be it solo or together with Al Santorico, who's, we're each other's brothers and partners in this. You know what? Everything I could talk to you about, I've had experiences with Bigfoot. I've had experiences with Dogman, which is, for lack of a better word.
You're getting ahead, because that's where I was going.
Yeah.
Because I was going in that direction. As far as cryptids.
Right. What part is that is genetically modified?
Is it genetically modified? Are we talking something from another dimension? What do you think?
Okay. So here's the thing. When I discuss what I believe Sasquatch, Bigfoot, and also the Dogman, because I've seen this. I originally believed it was part of Gigantopithecus. So that eighth line, right? The missing link, whatever it is.
Yes.
But in 2015, we were in a day-night investigation. We had a very, very close encounter with this Bigfoot. And it went from point A, which is no more than probably 20 feet in front of me, to point B, which is 2 miles down the road at the other end of a lake through a passageway that was a goat trail. And the only way you can do that is if you can open a portal, step in, and come out where you want to in an instant. So I believe they're interdimensional. I believe they're flesh and blood when they come here, and they move that energy from being interdimensional to dimensional physical, but they have the ability to transform back into different energy sources to go interdimensional.
Okay.
So, but when I talk about this, I'm giving you from my experience and my hypothesis, my opinion of these things. Everybody that talks about it, it's all hypothesis, because not one person I know has a physical Bigfoot or Dogman in their possession. And if they did, they'd probably be killed, and they wouldn't have it in their possession anymore. Do I believe the government has them in their possession? 100%. Do I believe the government created these entities? Not a damn way, no. I do not. I believe these exist, and they've existed for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years.
Do you think they were created by extraterrestrials, or they just happen to use maybe these extraterrestrials are using intradimensional, portals, and they kind of like snuck through, or what?
So here's the way it works. This is my assessment, and it's really funny. As we get more and more information or more experiences, we always change. We will review what we thought, and then we'll add the caveats that we need, to enhance that assessment. So I believe these entities and creatures are not created by aliens. I believe they're their own species. I believe they were part of this earth. I believe they're also interdimensional. They straddle two ends of the spectrum here. Now, what's interesting is some people have said, Bigfoot is the pet dog of ETs. They're biological creations. And I said, I don't believe so. Do I believe the ETs are abducting Bigfoot and doing the same type of experiments on them? 100%. They will do it on anything. And it's funny, and I use the analogy, when I used to take the train into Manhattan for work, right? I'd go for my stop, get on the train, 20 minutes later, I'm pulling into Grand Central Station. And as I pull in, so are like a dozen other trains are pulling in. And usually the same, we see people like, I've seen that guy before. He's going to go to Connecticut. He's on the Connecticut.
Right.
You see him every day. You kind of get used to seeing people from other areas. Not that you know them, but you just like, that's familiar. I remember her. Because she fell down one time and I helped her with this, and now she's over here. The same thing happens when you travel this interdimensional highway. You're seeing other entities there. It's like there's Bigfoot, there's Dogman, there's what you'd call an ultra-terrestrial or some other entities. There could be a chupacabra. And it's just like, hey, you're nodding like they exist, and you go. But I think the ET or the extraterrestrials, they want to go with what they have to do, experiments on all of them to see which one's the most compatible with them. So
basically they're just, let's find out. Let's see what's what with this.
Right. What happens if we mix this with that or that with this, so that's what they're doing there. But there is a race that, I forgot the name of them, there is a couple of races. It's really funny of extraterrestrials, not from this planet.
Okay.
They come from off planet. One of them looks very much like Ewoks. Like they're
Okay.
like
The
little,
little
they're like,
bears.
yeah, like mini Bigfoot bears. And
Mm-hmm.
there's another race that happens to look very, very much like a Bigfoot,
Okay.
and but they're not Bigfoot. They're totally their own beings. Now,
Okay.
maybe they did something, and I can't prove it at this point. I hopefully one day I can. Maybe that Bigfootish looking race seeded something here, and they
Okay.
try to do it. Maybe another race seeded something here, and they try to do it. That's why we have all these different. We have extraterrestrials off planet. We have interdimensionals because there's
Okay.
multiple dimensions, and then we have extraterrestrials became inner earthers. So we have
Right.
civilizations and worlds inside the earth
Right.
that have existed for millennia.
Yeah, that
And
and
we're
for all intents and purpose, we could even call them Earthlings because they've been here so
very,
long.
yeah, I mean, after a while, like here, for example, I'm born and raised in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, I'm a Native American,
Right.
right?
Yes. Yes, you are.
So I mean, like, so when they say, well, the Native Americans, I'm like, well, I'm one of those. I mean, if you
Yeah.
really want me to be, technical, there are other species that have been here before. There are species that were formerly, I would say, on top of the earth, and they may have been booted out, or they may have lost the conflict from another species, and they were told, nope, you go back inside, don't ever come out. You
Well,
know?
getting on that subject that we were talking earlier before we started filming about Antarctica.
Yeah.
All right. And I've always heard, again without proof, that there is an extraterrestrial base or something like it in Antarctica or
Admiral,
around
what was it,
Antarctica.
Bird? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
The inner earth, and it goes down multiple levels, and it goes down to another level where there's a race, and then it goes down another level, and there's a different race there, and then there's different beings, and it keeps going and going. You know, you can't let that get out if you have a church or a temple, and you want everybody to conform to like one God,
Well,
one this.
think about it. When you think of the time machine, the Morlocks,
Yep.
from
Oh yeah.
H.G. Wells,
Yep.
where, you had basically after a catastrophe, some of the humans went underground and of course they ate the other humans but that's subterranean. But of course there was always that kind of mentality makes you think, where did H.G. Wells come up with that?
That's when I get into. Remember, I was talking about Gene Roddenberry being influenced.
Mm-hmm.
He said some of them say that it's a dream. Some of them kind of say, I think I've been abducted, or I've had an
Right.
encounter with a being not of this planet. They told me about X, Y, and Z. And I think there is some influence in that. And notice the best ways of it getting out to the populace is, first it's through writing, right? The
Yes.
books. And
Yes.
it's not the people that can't read, which is at the bottom. It's the people that can read, which is a higher level of state to
Yes.
be in, right? And
Yeah.
then from there it goes into religion, and
Right.
and then another one is like, well, let's do television. Television was the next one. So
Right.
Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek. Well, like, why would this show? Why would it be allowed to be on the air when it was? It was just, for what it was. And Gene Roddenberry even mentioned that there's things involved in it that to this day he can't figure out, but he thinks he's been influenced by third, fourth, fifth party.
Well, when you think about the turn of the century in the 20s, when they came out with the Pulp Fiction and Lovecraft was writing and everything,
Yep.
literacy had gone up. Radio was still coming into its own. And we're talking here as far as exposure to the masses,
Right.
where these, magazines like Fate and all these,
I
a
remember
lot of
that.
a lot of those writers, okay, like Robert Howard, the one that wrote Conan the Barbarian, Lovecraft, all of these people were writing around this time period, and they were going way out there on ideas.
Yep.
And, whether sci-fi, occult, all of that. All
The
right.
sky's the limit, right?
Sky's the limit. But what I'm saying is, as far as their ideas via the stories, this is how they infiltrated into the masses because, if you were a teenager, you were reading all these Pulp Fiction magazines and stories,
Oh
or what
yeah.
they call dime now. And this is how I think that, when that seed is planted.
Well, it's planted in the detective novels, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It's planted in the little stories like, the radio show, War of the World, H.G. Wells, War of the
Well,
World.
and it makes you think that, and you laugh, but it's almost that people were so innocent that people really thought it was a real thing. It was like, wow.
Well, I mean, if think about it right then and there, like, if that's how you're getting your information, you can't see anybody, you don't
Yeah,
know
exactly.
what's going on. I mean, there's people today that are significantly older and younger that still believe wrestling is real. Sorry, folks. Okay.
It looks.
My father looked exactly like Lou Albano, so I get it. But it's a script and it's entertainment.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm going to get killed by a couple other people with podcasts. Is that actually one of them is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, the wrestling information. He's a great guy out of Newfoundland, but they do those flips, but they know how to do them where they're not.
Right. I know. If you look at it, you see that there's a possibility of really getting hurt if some of these things you do it the wrong way.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying there isn't, but if their injuries were real, as far as when they're fighting, they could keep going for years and years.
Yeah, but this whole thing, as these different genres have come out and these stories have started to come out, the different writers, Lovecraft, H.G. Wells, Stephen King, Whitley Strieber, whoever, we have increased our intelligent quotient dramatically, each one.
Sure.
Okay, but now we have something called this really bugs me. I used to like it, but I don't like it anymore. It's called faction. Where it's not real, but there's a lot of facts in it, and it makes it sound like it's real.
Right.
And then again, we're deceiving people, and I think the extraterrestrials are looking at who's believing this stuff and who isn't. Oh, they're not. They know this is BS. Okay, I'll pick them up tonight because we want those.
Right.
That's
exactly.
how you have to weed out the masses.
Right, and when you go to the sources of whatever it was. You find out this is your source or sources. Well, are you kidding me?
This is where you get into this thing. The reason why you're abducting people, it's some people are just genetically like I have. I remember growing up, I had this one friend, and she is literally, if she touches a man, she's going to be pregnant. Just like, hey, I'm pregnant. She is. So she's super fertile. There's another guy I know that like it doesn't matter what he does, his sperm is like killer sperm. There's another person that's super smart, So there's certain individuals, even though they may not be mentally or emotionally up there, they have a certain requirement. We can harvest those eggs. We can take some of that sperm, right? And then genetically we can manipulate the rest of that down the line. We can figure it out for what we want. But I think they're just weeding out the. It's like a gigantic IQ test without us knowing it's an IQ test.
Well, let me ask you: do you think that let's go with the idea of how long modern man has been around? Which I know this changes, but 10,000, 15,000 years, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you would think us now we are the hardiest. In other words, we are the products of that original man, which has gone through sicknesses, plagues, adaptability to environment. In other words, we are the best product. Like you said, you know how you, as generations go by, you start losing the individuals that are just sickly or have a predisposition to whatever. So basically, we're the best the humans have produced. We're not talking here without basically, because really, if you look at modern medicine, it's at the tail end of it.
Right.
Do you think that maybe that's why maybe they're attracted to us more, because what's left now of us is the best that has lived through hundreds and thousands of years?
I think that we've evolved, and I think recently, I think people are waking up or being enlightened. We're actually in the age of Aquarius, if you want to go back to that.
Right.
And it's an enlightenment phase. It's like truth comes out, and more people are doing the things they should have been doing, using their third eye right here. and
Sure.
and connecting themselves, raising their vibration higher. There's so much petty stuff that's going on,
Okay.
but there are a lot of people that I said they know it's petty and they're not getting involved in
It's
it. They're
I
going
think
up higher.
that it's fed to us sometimes, and here I'm
Yep.
going to go with my on purpose to distract us.
Yes. I mean, when you're testing something or someone, let's see, like, okay, throw this at them, see what they do.
Yeah.
A lot of this could be very much a test. A lot of it could be we got to a certain point, we should be making that giant leap from step 5 to step 10. We're at that point. Come on, someone do it. And it's really funny. All you need is one entity or one person or something to move that high step, and then everything stops, and people go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, stop! See what just happened?" And then the next thing you know, people are on board with that, and they leap as well.
Sure.
It's a very I guess they're waiting. I think we're waiting for the leaders, the real leaders, to arise from these moments. And I think that's what the extraterrestrials are waiting for. Look,
Well,
these beings can do whatever the heck they want to you whenever they want. Okay?
Right. Which is
yeah.
You're always hoping that they're nice, or it's like, okay, you're not. You know what was that Twilight Zone episode about the cookbook?
Oh yeah, Soil and Greens. Yeah, they're people. Right. Yeah, to serve man. That was the episode. Although my favorite was the Howling Man, where they capture the devil and then at the end they release him.
Right. Okay.
Great. But
and I think it's very interesting what you mentioned, Bryan, that there's lots of them. Okay. And I don't know if there's one of them that plays policeman, or they all keep themselves in check. I
think it's a giant standoff. So like I'm using my hands as ships. So outside of the planet, and then every race is put their whatever their seat is where they want it to be, right? Oh, we're taking this one, that, and that's, I think, what's taking place here on this planet is a combination of a human evolution as well as a intergalactical conflict between multiple different races to see who's the victor.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. What is the if you want to call it the victory, or what is the final objective?
The victory, from my research and from talking to numerous people that I respect that have been abducted multiple times, as well as people that are new to being abducted. I don't like the term experiencers. It's just like anytime they need to change the dialogue or definition, there's some other motive behind it, and I don't like it. If you've been abducted, you're an abducted person. You're an abductee, and that's being part of the experience, okay? Right. And I've interviewed these people, and a lot of them, 99.99% of the people that have ever had an abduction experience never want to discuss it with anyone. Not even their closest family members, like somebody always confide in. Yes. It is so beyond their concept. They can't handle it, and they won't discuss it.
You know what? And I'm glad you brought that up, because for many years I was a hypnotherapist, and I did alternative hypnosis, and a lot of time I dealt, regular stuff like stop smoking, weight control. Right. But then I had clients that would come to me for either recovered memories, or because, like what you said, they saw something. And I've spoken about it before. I had clients that would come to me wanting to hypnotize. One man came wanting me to make him forget something he had seen.
Oh, you can't do that.
And I can't do that. I told them, I said, it's really funny, because I had people come to me trying to remember, sometimes they would hide stuff in their house. And I said, I can't, there's no way I could do that. But it so rattled his universe that he wanted to forget it.
I'll give you an example, because you apparently had Al on a few times on the show, and he loved you, Al Santoriga.
Yes,
and
likewise.
I think he may have alluded to it. I'm not going to go directly back into it. I'm going to do a quick, cliff notes, okay?
Okay.
The test is coming up in about a minute. I'm giving you the cliff notes, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
2015, we did an investigation. Al was there, I was there, another guy, our friend Bill, who was also doing camera work, whatever. And we did a day and night investigation at this lake in upstate New York. We were 2 miles in at the top of the lake, and we were just, there was a little bit of anomalies there. Al's been to this area before. He's heard tree knocks. He's heard, grunts and different things, and we were going to investigate it. And in the process of the investigation, the first time we were there, we had an interaction with a Bigfoot. We heard the foot fall. It sounded like something big was coming. Mm-hmm. We had bluff charge that scared the hell out of Bill, and he took off running. We had to hold him back. Yeah, I mean, like it was
I'm out of here, guys. See ya.
Oh, he would have gotten killed, hurt, and blind because it was pitch black.
Okay.
He just ran. He thought something like a bear or a mountain lion or something was, coming behind him. So we stood our ground. We had tree knocks. We had rock knocks. And eventually we had this very large bipedal creature that was no more than 20 feet from us give 3 whoops. Whoop, whoop, that vibrate in your chest. Mm-hmm. And the third whoop is the one that was 2 miles down the road again. That's where I changed my opinion on it not being flesh and blood, but being interdimensional.
Oh, it could get over there so quickly.
Okay. So after that experience, everything calmed down. We went to go to the next area that we wanted to investigate. And on the way there, saw a UFO in the sky. And I actually remember it. I'm packing up all my stuff. We're going to the next location. I said, I packed my camera in my bag. I said, no, Brian, don't be the guy that had the opportunity, but he packed his crap away, right?
Yeah.
So I put it on my inner breast pocket, this Olympus A4 or 4 camera. The reason why I liked it is it's for scuba diving. So there's very little light underground. So it uses an algorithm to give it a better light. It's great for the dark.
Okay.
And I always saw this object traveling from east to west. And I went, what is that? I pointed to it. And it stopped immediately, the object, and it came towards us. Okay.
All right.
And it's 20 feet plus above in the air. And it has this, this weird sound to it. And Al's at that point is like, please don't let these guys get abducted, please. I don't want the responsibility. And I'm filming it. And this video is on the Bronxville Paranormal Society's YouTube page. You can see the UFO video. It's about 30-something seconds. Now, as an investigator for 40 plus, for 50, almost 50 years, why would I only film for 30 seconds if I have a craft in front of me? Right? Just that's part of it. So we had that experience, okay? Then after that experience, in that point from when it was over, and then we moved to the next location. In that process, we have 2 hours of missing time.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So now you're talking about hypnotherapy.
Yes.
Okay. So
I know exactly how it works, and
we had a rip in space and time with our psychic, and there's a little bit more to the story. I had bruises. I had a blue. I woke up the next morning. See, normally after an investigation's over, we go to the diner. Al gets his coffee, bacon and eggs. I'll probably get bacon, eggs, or grilled cheese. And we sit there, we compare notes. Well, I still remember this, you remember that, right? But all of us were like, nothing happened. When all this happened, it was like I remember at the moment.
So let me ask you something. You were going from site to site.
Yeah.
When you came, were you at the new site or were you still at the old site? At what point did you realize, hey, or did somebody looked at a watch and realized that there was 2 hours of missing time?
If you look at the UFO video, I wish I could have shared it with you. Al yells out, time check, because it's important.
Okay.
When you're an investigator, you want to see, you get a strange object, you always want to record the time.
Exactly.
Because of missing time, okay? And I don't know if it was me or Bill goes, 9:15, okay?
Okay.
And when we got to the next location, we tried to contact it literally took us no more than 10 minutes to go from where we were to the next location. It was like 5 or 6 steps up a little rocky area, and then it opened up to this area. We set up our chairs. And that's when Al and I were like, let's call our psychics, Cindy. And we try to call, and he goes, give me a time check. So I looked at my watch, it was 10 to 12.
Wow. Okay.
So we went from 9:15 to 11:50.
Okay.
About 2 hours of time, right? So the next day I wake up, I have this blue stuff in my mouth. It looks like I ate a Smurf. My daughters come back. My wife comes back from Sunday school, and they go, "Dad, what happened?" I'm like, what are you talking about? The bruises. I have 2 bruises on my chest, top and bottom.
What?
Okay. Al has something. I call Al. I go, "You have anything wrong with you?" And I also have something in the back of my head. He goes, "I feel like there's something in my left." I said, "Call Bill." He calls Bill, and we start figuring this out. Our psychic in Arkansas has a burn mark and a scratch like on her wrist from when we contacted her. And Bill wakes up at like 3:34 in the morning, screaming bloody murder, scared out of his mind in his house. His mother was there. He has his mother there to take care of his mom. So we have missing time. So we all agreed, although Al tried to cheat, that if we're going to do some kind of regression, we do it together, right?
Okay.
So during this, that's the regression thing. When you talk about people regression, and what you said, they go, "I have a memory. I don't want to remember it. You get it out of my brain." So I have a friend in this business. He's a really great guy. His name's Derek Tyler. He wrote Alien. I forgot the name of the book. Something like I'll remember. Look up Derek Tyler's books. He has 2 books out: An Inconvenience Truth, Alien something, and An Inconvenience Truth. That is the only book I've read or on the subject matter. And I only, he told me, read chapters, boom, 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 and it's in the beginning. And one of those chapters really unnerved me. So that's the only book. What these creatures, entities are what he's witnessed them doing to people.
Okay, and let me explain real quick, because any hypnotist or hypnotherapist, you have to be really careful with recovered memories. And let me explain why.
Yeah.
Your brain will try at all costs to keep you sane, all right?
Yeah.
But everybody's threshold for sanity is different. Let's say what you just described, a group regression. You might have one of you not be able to recall, will have a block, because for some reason that person's brain will realize, if we recover that memory, you will not be able to handle it.
Yep.
Okay. And that's what, and it's like that. Some people have horrific experiences and they can handle it, and others just totally, and it's the same. Now, what will happen is, if you can ever handle it, sometimes as time goes by, you start having these really wild dreams.
Yep.
Because that's how your subconscious talks to you in symbols. Okay. And it will slowly ease you into the memory, if you ever can remember it. Because believe it or not, there's some things that really, like what you just said, that I read that chapter, and it unnerved me. But which, by the way, what was it that unnerved you? Because you sound like it would be difficult to unnerve you.
It's the process of just them disposing of human beings as if they were just garbage.
In other words,
getting what they want, harvesting, select different races, harvesting something. Okay, throw it in the gutter. Oh, take that eye. We need that eye. Or what he's been experienced as a multiple abducting. He's been abducted by not only extraterrestrials, but also the U.S. military. Military personnel have been doing it too.
That's a scary thought. Okay, well, it is, but it's not, I'm not saying it's. I know it's very possible, because unfortunately it is. So, but why are they Is the military abducting him because he is an alien abductee?
Yeah, that's part of it, and also to continue. Aliens are black and white. We need to get this piece. Let's go take it. Boom, boom, boom. There's no emotion involved in it. The U.S., the military, it's all emotional. It's psychological operations. So they continue to do this to get you to do certain things, for this to mess with you. So part of the video, I isolated my audio from that UFO video, and if you listen to it with headphones, you'll hear a musical tone, and then it'll vibrate. So I sent to Derek. I said, Derek, this is the video. That's the enhanced. I made the audio enhanced. What's your take on this? And he comes back to me. It's a 30-second video. He's like, I'd say you've been downloaded. And I said, excuse me? He goes, you've been downloaded. And they downloaded you. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, why are you asking? He goes, well, we were thinking about doing the regression to see what happened to the 2 hours that were like missing. And he goes, before you do anything, let me ask you a couple questions. Sure, no problem. He goes, how do you sleep? Do you sleep well? I said, well, don't really sleep well. I've got 2 daughters. I don't sleep well.
Right.
I'm worried about everything. And he goes, no. Do you have nightmares? Do you have bad dreams, nightmares? Or do you get to sleep? Eventually I'll fall asleep. I have nothing bad or negative. He goes, don't ever get a good rest. And I said, well, why is that? He goes, because once you open that Pandora's box, you can't close it. And if you're not remembering, it's because part of you doesn't want you to remember, and they purposely know that you couldn't handle what you just saw.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I guess, because the idea has always been that people don't remember because the aliens don't want you to remember. You understand? Like if you had, and it's sometimes I hear that and I go, maybe it's your own brain saying, we're not going to let you remember because you're going to crack up if you do remember it.
I think it's actually felt like a 50-50 thing on that.
Yeah.
These extraterrestrials know who can handle it and who can't. It was really interesting. This past weekend, I was at the party, and there's another person there. I'm going to keep the person's name and gender to the side. Okay. This person is an investigator of Bigfoot in a specific state. It's a he. I can't do this without whatever. Okay. So he's a great guy, but he started getting into a certain area, which is where Al and I've been for years. And we're like, you're on the right track. Keep going. You're going to experience X, Y, and Z. And he's doing it. I don't want to influence people. Like, just like when you do a regression, you don't want to influence, like,
you don't want to give a suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a green light there. I'm like, I saw a green light. No, I just said okay. Right. So his stepdaughter is Filipino, and she's psychic. Okay. And she drew 2 creatures that are coming to visit this person right now. Oh. One of which I saw the creature
after he went there.
No, he's for some reason these creatures, these entities, these extraterrestrials are visiting him, and he's unaware of it. And at one point, so she draws this entity, and it's definitely a hybrid human extraterrestrial. Okay. Everything about it. And I've seen it. I knew exactly what was taking place. And he's not ready to handle it. He's just starting to get there. He's very good. He's going to be on that path. And he's going to be permissioned to remember more from the extraterrestrials. Okay. But right now, they know if he remembered too much, it would just fry his brain. So he was being visited by his offspring, his child. Wow. And I can't prove it because, I'm not going to go through it, but I said, this is what you're witnessing, and what's coming to visit you is your offspring. They do it all the time. And the ATs allow it to happen. And you'll see people peeking or strange kids, and women get it more so than men. Mm-hmm. But when someone who is on the male side, that's more in touch with the civilized thing of the right, wrong, the good, like women have a certain feeling to them, right. They allow them to have an interaction eventually with their parents. Offspring. Yeah.
Let me ask you, have you ever heard when they do this genetic material, do they reproduce like us, or are they basically constructing, or kind of, I don't want to say a clone because a clone is an exact version, but are they constructing the hybrid out of their genetic material and our genetic material? Because remember, we're assuming that they have a womb like a human. You understand what I'm saying? Right. Or do they reproduce in a different way where they can do it in a lab?
So what they do, and this is where females get into play, of our species of humans. Males are just donors. Okay. Guys, you know what? I'm a donor. I have 2 kids. I've donated. Right. I don't carry them. But the female species carry them. There are plenty of people that they know that now they've been multiply abducted, and they've been used as surrogates. Okay. They've been brought to ships and I guess what would be the sperm side, the male side of an extraterrestrial, and their egg has been implanted. They've harvested after a couple of months, and then it grows. I don't want to say it's like on a wall, or a petri dish, but they know how to create artificial wombs, and birth these entities, which are half human, half alien.
Right.
And then vice versa. Okay. And it's really interesting. It's like, my father's in the hospital. He didn't speak for a while. And when my youngest went to visit him, that's all she knew her grandfather as. And she loved him, and she wasn't scared, nothing. My older daughter would not go see him because she knew what he was like prior to that.
Right.
So when you're an alien hybrid, you're growing up in a ship, and you're first introduced to these ETs, and you have abilities like mental telepathy and whatever.
Right.
It's not unusual for you, but when you finally find out, and you're curious enough, which you should be, that your father is human, you're going to want to know, why do I look like this and that looks like that?
Right,
why
exactly.
does that look like that? Well, you're part of this. We created you from this and this. And, well, can I go see him? And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes these entities figure out a way to get here, and that's what takes place. So it's not like, it's a really weird thing. It's, I always have this vision of like those pods in like,
sure.
You know what the movie is, like
like an artificial womb. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's basically, that's what it is.
Right. Because I'm thinking, we a lot of times that, other species are like us, for all they might hatch. This is just, or they're a marsupial type of, we don't know. Like, how do they make it work? I guess it's like one of those things. Do they, and it's just, it's like a big rabbit hole to go down as far as.
Yeah, it's a huge rabbit hole, and I don't know the technology now.
Right, exactly.
There was 2 times in my life I'm missing time, and 2015 was the first time that I'm aware of. I'm gonna say it was 2 times that I'm aware of. Okay.
Right.
2015 with Al and Bill. That's the first one. The last one was a year ago in May or June. I forgot when we were coming down to look for a house, and we finally bought the house. We're in the location where we are. Okay. We're in the Palm County, right? Palm Beach County. I don't even know what the name is.
Palm Beach County, yeah.
Palm Beach County, right? So on the way down, I use Waze. And Waze app, it's really great. I recorded my own voice, and it's hysterical. And some of my friends actually use my voice as their navigation.
I didn't know you could do that with Waze. That's
you can. And pardon the expression, but once we get to the point, I go, holy shit, we made it. And my youngest loves that slang. She goes, holy shit, we made it. So we're driving down, and normally what we did was when we get to, we stayed at Fayetteville, North Carolina at one point, but that was like an hour too little. So we moved to South Carolina, Florence, and the distance between the two is about an hour driving. Okay.
Right.
So my wife's in the front, and she's passed out. It's getting late. And my kids are passed out, and it's about 11:45 or whatever. And the highway's closed because they're doing some construction. So my ways, highway's closed. They get me off the highway, and they put me on this other road, 301. So I start taking 301 now. I'm very used to driving on country roads. Right. Especially when the moon's out. I could drive without, it was a full moon. I literally could shut the lights off of my car and drive and see perfectly. And I used to do it because it would scare the crap out of people in the car. It's fun stuff, right? So I'm like, oh, cool, this is fun, whatever. And I said, you know what? I want to have a cigarette. So I noticed this weird light to the right of me off of 301. And it's changed of color: red, orange, yellow, green, purple, white. And it kind of it's sparkling. I can't describe it other than, So I said, you know what? I pull up. I'm on this 2-lane, one in each direction country road, and I see it's about 10 to 12. So I'm an hour away. I'm going to get there 1 o'clock in the morning, roughly. So I pull off the side of the road. I undo the light in the car so I don't wake anybody up. And I get out of the car, I close the door, and while I have a cigarette, I'm watching this light show, and it's a weird craft. And I'm like, okay, well, Fort Bragg's right by here, so it could be a drone or whatever. And I see it, and it kind of bursts, and then it comes back, and I'm like, whoa, that was really cool. And I'm complaining I'd really like to have my scope. I have this night scope. And I smoke a cigarette, and I'm watching it, and then it gets really, really bursty, bright, and it kind of like lights up a little bit like a smaller moon. I go, wow, that's cool. And the next thing I know, I'm in my car and I wake up. I have a terrible headache. I'm tired. I'm like, what the hell? Like, how did I get here?
Okay.
My wife's sleeping. My kids are sleeping. And my Waze is on. It says, do you want to resume your drive? I said, of course,
Right.
I click resume. It says you'll be at your destination at like, I think it was 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. I forgot which one it was. And I'm like, what?
Right. Why is it going to take me 3 hours now?
It was 10 to 12, right?
Right.
So I think it was 4 a.m. And so like, okay, this is strange. What the hell just happened? Trying to figure this out as I'm driving back, and they get me on the highway. And I get there, and it's like 4 a.m. and my wife wakes up. She's like, oh my God, what took us so long? And I quickly had to, can't tell her that I don't know. I kind of.
Yeah, I lost time.
Yeah, so I said they shut the highway down, so we had to go slow and whatever. So I get in the room, and everybody in my car is complaining, like their neck hurts, and I have a headache. I have a headache. My family doesn't complain about headaches.
Right.
No one. I'm the only one that does. And so we get in the hotel, we go there, and I'm like, okay, this is really weird. I make notes of it. I go to bed. I just feel uncomfortable, but I go to bed. And we wake up in the morning, get up, get breakfast, and we're going to travel from there down to, to Florida. And my youngest one, Daddy, can you help me? Sure. So they were sleeping in the same bed. We had 2 queen beds.
Right.
So my oldest and my youngest are sleeping in the same bed. And I help her. She changes her shirt out of pajamas, and I can see her. There's a little bit of a blood stain on her pillow. Okay. Very little. I noticed it. And then I noticed on her back, on her left shoulder blade, little BB scoop mark.
Really?
Right? You can put a BB in it. Yeah. So I said, I'll help you, honey. And I help her. When I go over there, I kind of felt through it, and there's a scoop mark there. Went, okay, cool. So we go down to Florida, and we buy this. You say, yeah, we're buying this place. It just so happens one of my oldest daughter's best friends she met in summer camp lives a block away from me in this. Yeah, it was great. So this is before they started building. It's a brand new build down here.
Okay.
So there's this huge open field, and there's something about Florida skies. They're just absolutely stunningly beautiful. The clouds look great. It's very clear. The sunsets are amazing down here. Sunrises, they're really beautiful. And so I'm an artist as well. I take note of this. And I get this ringing in my ear as we're talking outside their house, my left ear, and I have a ring, and I look up, and what's hovering in the sky, like just as the sun's setting, so it's a little bit like dusky.
Yeah.
Is an object that's changing colors from red, green, blue, orange, purple, white. Okay. And I'm like, okay. All right. And I know what this is. I'm looking. I'm like, okay. I don't have any cameras. I got nothing.
Right.
I'm not planning on this. Okay, cool. So we end that night. I went home, and I just kind of felt uncomfortable in the hotel the last two nights. Eventually, we get back within 3 or 4 days. We get back to the New York area, and we decided to have lunch with a friend of my wife's, really good friend. She's like an aunt to my kids. And we were outside this restaurant, we're eating, it's all great. I said, I'm going to pay the check, go get the car, I'm going to use the restroom. I come back out of the restaurant, pay the check, and my oldest daughter, who's 13 or 12 at the time, she's crying and upset, and my wife's sitting there holding something against it. I'm like, what happened? She goes, she had a bloody nose. My daughter never has a bloody nose.
Okay.
I said, let me see this. And she goes, this came out of it. And I kid you not, it was a square, like this big, that thick, of this fleshy-ish. I don't know what it was. Yeah. So I said, I'll let me throw that out. And I grabbed it. And I just so happen to have in my pocket, I keep a plastic bag for like salt. it's protected, when I grab some salts. I dumped all the salt out and I put that in my bag. And I was going to test it. I was going to send it out to get a test. And after that, I never got tested. Those are the only 2 times I've had missing time. And the fact that on the second time around with my daughter having nosebleeds, she's like built like she's made a lot prettier.
Right, yeah. But I know what you mean. There's kids that have nosebleeds, and then there's I know what you mean.
She doesn't get cold. She doesn't get sick. She doesn't, nothing. And never in my life did you have a nosebleed. And
that's interesting.
It's funny. One time, I was talking to Al once, and I woke up, and I like, for some reason, I don't get nosebleeds. I don't. And I woke one day, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden my nose started bleeding. I'm like, what the hell is this all about? So I'm looking and bleeding. So I told Al, and then he goes, it's probably the damn aliens. So I said, yeah, probably, whatever. So I go in, I was sitting outside the car while my other daughter was doing a swimming lesson. I go in and I said, look, my nose bleeds. She goes, oh, those aliens are probably getting you. I said, don't make fun of me. Don't. They're going to come for you too.
She's like,
and she's like, they always love to joke around me. Oh, did you find your underwear last night? The alien stuff. Right? So fast forward to the next day. Guess who wakes up with a nosebleed?
You do?
My wife.
Oh, your wife?
Yeah, she doesn't get nosebleeds. So I said, making fun of the aliens, huh? That was messed up, wasn't it? Don't do it. Yeah, so she had.
That's unusual. That's really unusual.
So, well, I think this was, if they take you, they're usually going to take your spouse and your offspring. And
so do you think they were tracking you because you were relocating?
I think they were curious about why we kept going back and forth, what was going on there.
Okay.
But prior to 2015, I never had missing time ever. And I used to be in a couple of bands and we drank pretty heavily when I should have had missing time.
Right. Yeah. You remembered everything.
I remember everything. And, but I also, because I do remote viewing, and I have Claire audio now, which is freaking me out because I'm hearing, I can hear things. As you start entertaining or exercising certain things, abilities you have, like Al went through an ascension, and I told him, you're going through an ascension. Breathe, do this. As you exercise any muscle, including your third eye, it gets easier to do, and then other things start to develop. So you can get muscles on top muscles, right? That's what happens. So I have Claire audio. Every once in a while, I have technometry. I can touch something, and it just flashed through my mind.
Let me ask you something. And now that you say that, I know you mentioned that you were a remote viewer.
Yes, I call it remote viewing, but other people call it something different.
Okay, and the reason why I ask you this is, there's what they call that middle plane in the technical remote viewing, and I was wondering if you had, while you've been remote viewing, you've had encounters or felt like something was around you. And are they watching you even when you're remote viewing? I guess
I can answer that. Here's something that's, if I've experienced something and I know something is something, I don't need to revisit it again.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go purposely, although I've gotten requests. Hey, remote view Pluto. I have no desire to remote view Pluto. I got it.
I'm sorry, but who would want that? It's like,
they're like, have you remote viewed? Because one of my friends, his name is Carl Petrie. He's a psychic. He's a great guy. He was very good friends with Ingo Swann, who is like the king of remote viewing. Ingo could do stuff, and he's painted and he's written books about, he literally traveled extraterrestrials, other dimensions, different planets. I mean, light years from here, and the things he can do. And the things he's said from his experiences will blow you away. If you look up Ingo Swann, if you want to read something interesting, read his stuff. But I don't bother doing it. I mean, I use it usually to help people out. I'll be asked something like, this is the problem. Right. Can you help me? And I'll go and I'll say, okay, no problem. I like helping people out. I'm not a sucker, but I'm a sucker for the good, happily ever
Yeah,
after.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. You want to help. You want to give somebody a hand.
And I've learned long ago that when I remote view something and there's an issue, I don't waste any time. I literally get taken right to the issue.
Okay.
So I remember I was helping Al out. His wife was having an issue with something at night, and so I said, if you give me permission, I'll remote view. I've never been to his house at this point.
Okay.
And I remote viewed. I sat there and I kept to this one area where there was a cabinet there or something open, and I walked around and I saw him. And whenever I remote view Al's house, I always mess with him. I will literally, I swear to God, I literally at certain times will go there and just to bug him, because this is what we do with each other. Okay. And I'll say something like blue monkey, right in his ear. I'll go into blue monkey. I'll try to put that in his brain. So, because I want to see, I have to test myself. The only person that I've actually confided in with a lot of this is Al, and Al's like, yeah, go ahead, tell him, because it's not him. But I've been 98% accuracy. So, but when I went there, I said, Al, the problem's coming from this area. And I said, let me draw it for you. And I never been to his house. And I drew the area and where it's coming from. He literally goes, dude, you just drew my bedroom. Okay. In a reverse. And I said, well, that's where it's coming from.
In the reverse,
he goes,
because that's what happens.
And he goes, how the hell did you know what my bedroom was? I said, I don't know. I've never been to your house before. And that always, that's boom, that's a hit, right? But yeah, it's with remote viewing, I've gotten caught doing it. There are other people, other remote viewers and entities that will catch you that they are in that plane.
Right. And the reason why I asked you, because you mentioned that you do it to help people. Yeah. And there have been instances of people that I've heard that, whether they're doing remote viewing or they're doing, psychic work, where they go into that plane, and if what's there is sentient or malevolent or whatever, they kind of mess with you because you're trying to help out that person, family, whatever. And that's why I was asking you if you'd ever had an encounter with something at that point, which basically wanted you to get out of here.
Yeah. So what I do is, if I'm remote viewing a human being, I know it's a human being, right? We have an issue. Right. I scared the hell out of somebody who was supposed to come into our group, but was blocking our psychic from reading them. Okay. And we need our psychic. We need her to tell us if they're good people or not, because if we're going on an investigation, we have to be able to rely and trust on people.
Absolutely.
So I said, look, I'll go remote view. I'll go over there and I'll let them know, you can't do this. If you want to be part of the group, you have to be red. Okay. Yes. And I went in there and I just happened to pop into the room and she saw me and it freaked her out. I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, look, you can't block our psychic, whatever. And she tried to put down walls and whatever. Right. And I was like, that ain't going to work. And from that point forward, she didn't contact Al for years after that. She just disappeared. I must have scared her, purposely avoided him for that.
That's interesting.
But when I go to do something like a building or any place, I always engulf myself in white golden light of God, and I put a shell around me that is a mirrored shell. It's a one-way mirror where I could actually look at I could look out of the mirror. And all you're going to see, you're going to see this ball of mirror coming at you, but I'm inside it, so you'll never know who's inside it. And that's how I go. But I've done a couple of these things where we've gone to places to try to remote view certain locations that you shouldn't be able to do. Okay. And military or whatever, I've gotten caught. They use it too. There are people they still have the programs. They can tell you all that they want. Oh, that was defunct in 73. Please. It works. It's 100% works. It is amazing. And on my end, the science end, I've always I know it's possible, but I question it because I grew up in a different type of, you shouldn't be able to do this, type of thing. Sure. you know. So, but yeah, I've gotten caught, and I know people like Al talked to somebody recently. She's very popular now around, and she's a remote viewer.
Okay.
And he's like, you better be careful about remote viewing, because just because you don't see them, it doesn't mean they don't know you're doing it. You know, yeah, and
Yeah.
they'll come to you, and when they come into your house and when they try to enter your home and mess with your kids, what are you going to do at this point? And this person never thought of it before, but that's the truth. You know,
Right. And the reason why I ask, if I've also heard of remote viewers, also people that have, gone on things, wanting to see, UFOs or extraterrestrial contracts, stuff follows them back home.
Yep.
All right. And the manifestation sometimes is equivalent to what we call paranormal things.
100%.
Then you're saying, okay.
Yep.
How can it go from being let's say, for example, a sighting of a UFO to a paranormal occurrence in my home? That people, and somehow or other, and I don't know exactly how, but they're connected somehow. So they can follow you back.
Right. So if you tap into an extraterrestrial in the ship or whatever, they're like, who the hell is this? And they have the ability to follow you directly. They can follow, you do. It's really weird when you vibrate. Everybody has their own frequency. Yeah, I think everybody's been told that before.
Right.
Your frequency is your address. It's like your email address. Just if you think you won't get caught. No, I got your frequency. I know where the frequency is. I just scan for the you're in Pittsburgh. I'm going to Pittsburgh. Okay. Now the grays, the little grays. There's different little, medium, and then the tall grays. The littlest grays, the ones that are doing a lot of the picking up of the abducted, they're clones. They're actual extraterrestrial biological entities, clones. They're dumb as rocks. They're the reason why 99% of the ships crash. I'm not kidding when I'm saying this. They're the drivers. They're the worker bees, and they're not bright. When you get into the ones that are about 6 foot and taller, the tall grays, those are the ambassadors, and they're the ones that have had interaction with humans for many years. Okay. Very smart.
Do you think that those grays, any grays, are the little ones? They're biomechanical or just totally organic?
I think it's not biomechanical. You don't need biomechanics when you can create these things. Like you can just grow another one, and it's really weird. It's already programmed, and you tell it, go do this, and it can literally walk through. It can dematerialize, walk through walls and stuff.
Okay.
It'll go right through it. That's why you get the manifestation is these beings being in your house, watching you, and moving stuff. And when they move it, you don't see them, but you see the coffee pot move. Like, what the hell is that?
Right.
I'll give you an example. I did a round table with a couple of friends of mine. One is, one of the persons in the Justin Cancelleri is one of them. He's a podcaster and author. And Katie Turner, she's a psychic she was on Travel Channel too. I forgot what the hell the program was. I mean, like, probably one of the best psychics I've ever met in my life.
Okay.
So we were supposed to have this big roundtable topic for Justin's show, but it was only us. So we started talking. We did a video thing, but he was just recording audio, not video. Now, I was in my apartment. I'm on the top floor of my building. I do it in my kitchen. It's an alley kitchen. Behind me, I put a screen up. Behind me is a window, and there's probably no more than 1.5 feet to 2 feet behind me. And that's the garbage is hidden there, and nothing's behind me. That's my point. 7 stories up in the air, okay? And we're having this conversation, and we're going like this, and I kind of got this weird sensation that something alien based. It's just like alien. It just popped in my head. And while we're talking, Katie's there like this, and she does this, like, and she's looking, she leans in. So we're sitting there, and I'm like, okay. Blah, blah, blah. And the whole show's over, and I go, are you done recording? Yeah, we're done recording. I said, what the hell did you see behind me? She goes, oh, you caught that? I'm like, how could I not? You came right up into the camera, like you wanted to see it. She goes, there was an alien that popped out behind you. I said, what? She goes, a gray alien. And I had the image in my freaking head too at the time.
Okay.
Because there's a gray alien there. I said, oh, there was? I said, okay, hold on 1 second. And I went, and I picked up the alien that I saw in my head. I go, was it this? She goes, holy crap, that was it. That's it. And that is the same one that was in my brain. And
right, exactly.
This thing, see, this is how they get to you. They can go interdimensionally. They don't physically have to be there. They can see. When you get to a certain point, and we'll find this out through quantum physics, quantum physics is going to be the greatest thing, and it's going to screw so many bets on this planet. I bet you can't do, it's really going to do that, but it's also going to be very enlightening. It's going to explain everything. But basically, in quantum mechanics and physics and in the way things really work, you see everything that's happening at once. The beginning, the end, every second, every moment, every multiple timeline, everything. That's why it's so intense. You can get it all at once. That's why the Einstein bridge and theory that if you travel light speed into the future 15 minutes, you come back, you get old people there. No, you don't. Because all you gotta do is change the timeline. And you can do it in an instant and nothing has been lost. You can go back to whatever time you want. You can go forward to whatever time you want in an instant, and nothing's going to change because you get to see it all at once. It's the weirdest thing. It's very hard to grasp or grok for people. And that's going to explain a ton of this stuff. That's going to explain how these ETs are able to know where you are and what you are. They see you. Other beings see you. All these entities that you've had plenty of ghosts on your show, right? Yes. Ghost stories, right?
Yes.
How do you think these ghosts or these spirits or these demons that are doing negative things know all about you?
Oh, I tell everybody, when I used to be active in more paranormal investigations, I would tell them, my first tip off that I was dealing with an intelligent entity is that sometimes I knew ahead of time, or I didn't even know I was going to get a case. Right. I had made a separate garage into my office.
Yep.
And I had one of my windows was that frosted glass. On the other side of that, there was nothing there. I would put my trash cans underneath there, and beyond that, it would face into my backyard. There was nothing.
Right.
And I would be working at my desk, and it was like to my right, that window. And sure enough, every once in a while, whenever I would see movement back and forth, as in human size.
Yep.
Because it was like from the chest up is where the window was. I knew, okay, either I've got a case, I just got a case, and there's something intelligent, or I'm going to get a case because they would be checking me out. They would be checking me, and anybody that's been doing paranormal work will know that if you think that investigation starts when you get to the premises, that's not true. They come if it's intelligent. I'm not talking residual, or I'm not talking something that's not there. When we're talking an intelligent entity, that thing about that they're bound to a place. Nah, sorry. They come and they start checking you out. Who's going to come over there ahead of time? Sometimes even before I knew. And sure enough, within at least 24 to 48 hours, I would get notified of a case. And I was like, oh, that was my first tip off that at least something there was intelligent.
Oh, yeah.
As an intelligent haunting. And then one of two things. Depending on what was going on, they tried to, if not you, they tried to get the family or whoever was involved to basically stop the investigation. You would get these calls. No, look, I can't make it. I'm sure you've had that experience.
Yeah,
where these people are calling you going, help, quick. Can you come yesterday? And then by the time you get there, and you're getting a team together, all of a sudden you get this, you know what? Don't worry about it. We thought
it's decided, or it's we're good. It was the cat. I'm like, no,
right, or whatever, or we can, or look, something happened, and it was like, it was funny because after a while you could lay bets on that stuff like that would happen, because or things would die down, or something, and people were like, oh, because of course. But what you were describing, that they know ahead of time what's, the bird's eye view of what's coming on the road. Yeah, they do. And they, depending again what was on the agenda, they try to sabotage the help, if that's what you were going to come and do for the family. Or sometimes it was just curiosity. Sometimes they
Entities
were
that
just
are up to
curious.
no good. Oh, they want to sabotage stuff.
Oh, and sometimes they were just curious. They were just
Right.
curious. They
Then
were
there
just
are other
curious.
ones that definitely want help. See, it's really funny. So I have two daughters, and they both have gifts and abilities. Okay, and actually, they're trying to come into my room right now. And so, and the thing is that my wife is very much a skeptic on certain things.
Right.
Okay, but that being said, it's fine. But I know what's going on, and I know what my kids are seeing, and they are beacons because I'm going to say this way: people that are artistic or quantitative use more parts of their brain,
Sure.
right and left side. Okay, and that's on the both male and female, but females in general use both sides of their brain from birth. That's why a lot of them happen to have gifts. And when you have children, they're an empty, it's a full sponge, right?
Yeah. They don't filter stuff out.
They are beacons of light between Earth. Here's heaven. This is Earth, and their ether in between there is that place where I don't want to go to that light. What is that light? They get stuck there, and that's where the good, the bad, and the ugly is. We call it, for the show that I do and I have, it's called Inside the Goblin Universe. That's the Goblin Universe right there. So just imagine a pitch black room, and all of a sudden a little pinprick of light goes on. You're like, what the hell is that? Oh, I got to get out of here. I'm going to go to that light. Well, that light happens to be my daughter or someone else's daughter or someone else's child. So like you said, they will go to you and go to them. Now, the problem I usually have is when I have an issue and I'm too close to that issue, like my family, I have to go to a third party. Sure. So my wife and my youngest daughter were sitting at a table doing homework in our small apartment. And they both looked up like one of these, like, quickly. Okay. And my wife even admitted to it. And my wife told me, she goes, yeah, we saw this. There was somebody in the corner. I'm like, what? She goes, yes, it looked like somebody appeared. There was a man in the corner. It was a split second. So I try to look at them, like, who is this? I did a little bit of saging. I called our psychic up and I said, look, you know that when I'm too close, I can't figure it out. I'm like, they saw this. She goes, before I could finish my sentence, Cindy's like, you got to tell him to leave. And I said, well, is it bad? Do I have to do, he goes, no. He's missing half his face. It was blown off. Okay. And so this is what my daughter's seeing. Sure. So now I have to, one, I can't say this to my wife. She won't believe me. And it'll be good for divorce proceedings. And so now I have to say, honey, don't worry about it. I got rid of that person. He's not coming back. He wasn't here to hurt you, but he's not coming back. So we have to do these things. And this is, part of the, the positive and negative of this whole thing of being able to, I'm very aware that these kids have gifts. I'm there to help them when I can. Little by little, my wife is having experiences, and
she's coming to this thing on her own. Like, I can't ignore that.
I'm not influencing. She's coming around, but I still love when, like, my wife or anybody new or has never had that experience. I'm going to use the term normal, but we're all normal in this case. When they're like, dude, I saw this UFO. I'm like, what? You're telling me the person that like, no, that wasn't a UFO. It was a weather balloon. And then we'll miss it, I love when we get evidence like that, because
that's usually when people arrive at that conclusion by themselves, not because somebody talked them into it, but because they've gone through the checklist of everything that it could possibly be, and that wasn't it. Yeah. When they get to it by themselves, that's when they become a believer.
Oh yeah. Well, she's not a believer yet.
I know. It's a process.
And it's fine. I don't need anybody to believe me or what. See, I don't sell anything. Even if when we have a book and writing a book right now, Al and I are writing a book. But even if we have a book or we're not really selling you. I publish to publish for me. Sure. And Amazon offers that, and it's like, here, look. Yeah. I told my wife, like, look, see, I published. She goes, that's great. We have 3 clients and they need X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay, forget it. You don't care, But so I'm not telling. I tell you as a person that does investigations and research, boots on the ground, with and without Al. I'm telling you from my own personal experience and from whatever background I have. I'm not trying to sell you. I always tell people, please take what I'm saying, go do the research. That's how I like to do it. There are too many people that come in and they think they're experts. There are no experts in this field, not one bit. I've had more years of experience with X, but it doesn't mean I'm an expert,
Of course. I mean, it's a very fluid kind of field of study. Like I tell them, the supernatural is not an on-demand thing. You can't. And I tell everybody, when you see these shows, and I know it's entertainment, these paranormal reality shows, that every time they go, something happens, and I go, come on, I know it's entertainment because otherwise people would be like, that's it, nothing happened. And it's like
a lot of times nothing
happens. It's like, oh my god.
And this is par for the course, and you probably can do it yourself if you do paranormal stuff. We have so many times that we were getting the camera ready or the mic ready, and then boom, get out of the house. I'm like, did you hear that? Oh my God. We got that, right?
Oh my God, that's so funny. Hour after everything is packed, we're ready to leave.
Yeah. I'm putting batteries in it now. I didn't, oh my God. So I changed the rule for Al and I, and he hates me for it, but we always meet offsite, and what we do is I said, we're like within like a 5-minute drive, no more than that.
Right.
I said, get your shit together, put your batteries in, and I always have a recorder running 24/7. And now I have one of those body camera stuff for investigations, and it runs 24/7. It runs for 72 hours if I want.
Yes.
And I get it before we get there because we had such great evidence, and battery drain. Didn't turn on the recorder. He didn't return it on. It's just like.
And it's the same thing. I tell people that's another tip off. When you do paranormal investigations, when they do stuff before or especially after, it's an intelligent haunting. In other words, they're aware that all the gadgets, which by the way, I'm not a big proponent because I tell everybody I was investigating when you had to pay to develop film.
Yes.
When they kind of know that you're like. It's almost like if you were wondering if they're aware of you, they are, because their timing is like impeccable. It's almost like you're there. And by the way, all that stuff that you were trying to capture, whether it's a camera or whatever it is, now that you've put it away, now I'm gonna let you have it.
Yeah.
And it's that right there is your first, another sign. Okay, there's something there, and not only there, it's not residual, or it's not on the loop, or it's not just going through. There's something that's there that's watching you, is aware of you, and understands why you're there also.
Here's a classic example that I'm being waved that I have to leave. I apologize.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it because it's. Let me tell you something. We gotta you gotta come back to this. We gotta keep going on this.
You know what? This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get Al to get his butt down here because his sister's down here.
Oh, yes, I know.
And then I want to go north because we got a couple of Bigfoot investigators up there, so we'll all meet up.
Let me tell you something. That Al's story of his Bigfoot encounter here in Florida.
Yep.
Is great.
Oh, it's amazing. And listen to that episode. I love it, and that was life-changing for him.
I bet.
That was life-changing. But I'll give you something to go with that's just like that. We were talking about that.
Okay.
You just put the cameras away. Al and I were on the Pine Bush Festival, planning board, whatever, and we're always there. And before we did New York State UFO project, we investigate all of this stuff, mind you.
Right.
Okay. So during the day, we gave 3 1-hour presentations.
Okay.
And then we gave like 3 to 6. I don't know. Like we did the 3 half-an-hour and then 3 15-minute ones.
Okay.
And later that night, no one ever did it before. We're going to do a close encounter of the 5th kind, which is an active encounter.
Okay.
Where you actually ask, using your consciousness to bring in craft. Well, Al and I have been there since 5 o'clock in the morning. We were wiped out. We're hungry. We're tired. And we're like, we had to wait until after the final speakers go, about 10 o'clock. And Al and I are like, I hope nobody comes. And I'm so wiped out. But we go back to the event where the speakers are, because we're going to do it in a different area. Mm-hmm. And we see there's a mother and daughter there that specifically came out for the CE5 that we're going to conduct. I'm like, okay, I feel guilty. So they said, well, we don't know where it is. I said, just follow me. So me not wanting to do it because I was tired, and Al was recovering from cancer, radiation stuff, and he was wiped out. We finally drive from this one area in Pine Bush by the town council area to where we're doing it over in a very dark wooded area. And as we get there, there's about 75 people there, men, women, families, and I'm like, holy crap. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I guess we have here we go, which is great. And we pull in. And I'm also going to meet German television there because they want to interview me.
Okay.
Okay, so as we're there, we get a phone call from our buddies, Bill and Mark D'Antonio, like, where are you guys? Yeah, we got people here that want to come. So I said, okay, well, hold up. We told them where they were, and 40 more people. So we have well over 100 people here, right? Men, women, children, families. We're sitting in this field, and Al's like, it's all you, Bri. I'm white. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, everybody, I know we had a great day, great fair. Let's bring it down. And I try to walk them through a meditation and say, look, now focus your eyes. And we can see beautiful sky. You can see in the distance about 30, 40 miles, maybe even 50, I'm not sure. The mountains, and we know the traffic is out there. The air traffic is nowhere near us. It's out there, and we're concentrating and breathing, and just now think about this craft. And at this point, German TV is gone. They left.
Okay.
So I'm doing this for another about 10 minutes with them. Everybody that's there, and I hear this what sounds like an owl or kids hooting and hollering. I would never use the term hooting and hollering in my life, And I was just about to turn to Al and go, did you, hear, like, do you hear these kids? When this guy comes over and goes, do you hear the owl? And I said, yeah, I was just about to tell, do you hear the kids? I'd be drinking on a Saturday night in a one-horse town too. Right. And the minute I turn to say, and I start saying that, right over our heads.
Really?
No more than 15 stories, maybe 20, is a ginormous black dark craft. And in the center is a dome, a white dome, like an LED white.
Because I was going to say, with that many people, something had to have happened.
God. You could see the hexagonal ring that's holding this white dome in place in the center of this. Like gunmetal black ship, not a sound, and it's hovering over our heads. So we start saying things like, can you do a sign for, Al's flashing lights, flash, 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 dash, whatever, and it flashes back. So we say, can you go out to the mountains and then, do some, aerobatics, and then come back. And in an instant, boom, it's out in the mountains. You see it, it bursts. And it makes a right-angle turn, 90-degree turn, and then it comes back to us. I'm like, oh my God, everybody's like going crazy. And this whole thing lasts what seems no more than probably 5 minutes, maybe max. And this whole time I'm thinking what we just discussed.
Right.
German television left 5 minutes too early.
Of course, yeah.
They would have had the greatest piece of evidence.
Sure. Exactly.
Ever. Mm-hmm. And they blew it. Or in our case, it would never have happened. People were like, nothing happened,
Okay.
But yeah.
But still, and people sometimes think of that. And anybody that's ever done investigations, that'll happen once too often when you're like, okay, that especially on investigations where it's been like really dead, no pun intended. And it's like, oh, okay, well, let's just leave. And then it's like, ha, 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 well, last laugh is, it's our, is on you guys because we've been here all along, or, plural, whatever. We have to come back.
Definitely.
One of the things, and I'll shoot you an email about something else I wanted to ask you about, especially since you're from New York and that area, about some of the occult stuff that was going on there in the 70s and 80s, tied into Son of Sam, blah, 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 etc. Yeah, I would love to talk to you about that.
Sure.
But before your wife comes and sends, it tells you, let me not be on her naughty list. for
Oh,
holding you off. But thank you
no
so much.
problem.
It's been absolutely wonderful, Bryan.
It's an
Before I
absolute
forget,
pleasure.
what's your website address for the podcast listeners?
Okay, so it's inside the Goblin Universe at
Okay.
podbean.com. So just go to, we're on everything.
Okay.
Inside the and I do another program. Thank you for pronouncing it right. NoBoBuMe, which stands for Nobody But Me. And
Okay.
even though Al says he's retired, I always drag him out and we do
Okay.
podcasts. So we have
Okay.
these conversations. So, I'm going to start up again. I'm getting everything brought in,
Sure.
and I'm going to have a proper studio this time. So, I could do it, whenever I want. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it'd be
Yes.
great.
Okay. I will put links in the credits of the show anyway.
Thank you.
Okay. But you got to come back soon, real soon. Okay. And welcome to Florida.
Thank you. I'm proud to be a new Floridian.
Yeah, baby.
Freedom. It should be called Freedom Land. So
You bet.
that's
No
what I
kidding.
say.
Yeah. Free state of Florida.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care. Bye
Be
bye.
well. Bye.
Likewise. Wow. Yeah, we were talking a lot before we started rolling, and and I was telling him that yeah, I run across a lot of people from the Northeast here in Florida, well, northern Florida, but I still visit South Florida, and I have people there, family there, and I get a lot of people that tell me all the time, oh yeah, these people, my neighbors or new people, they're hold on a minute. Okay. They here we go. They're from the Northeast. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, blah 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 blah. And like I was telling him, once upon a time, Florida was the haven for what they call the snowbirds of the Northeast. People in the Northeast that would retire, and they would come here if you were older, and just to get away from the snow and stuff like that. But it was a totally different thing. And then now no, that's not the case. It's not the case. Things have changed drastically. That and what he was saying, I've heard that version of why people left. The same thing. And by the way, these are families that have lived there, like their grandparents and great grandparents have lived in the same town or in the same area of New York and New Jersey and Northeast for a long time. For them to pick up and go, it's because they're at their wits' end. So, but anyway, guys, I hope you like this interview with Bryan, because I always like it when I talk to somebody and they have experience in all these areas, and like I said, it's not just the oh, I read this or I saw this on a show, and you know what? It takes something for, like I said, the experience, the field work, if you want to give you a good insight, that whether, like I said, the umbrella of the paranormal, whether it's ghosts or cryptids or UFOs or whatever, a lot of the investigations are really boring sometimes. I've heard of people that go out into the woods hoping to capture something having to do with Sasquatch. Nothing. They don't get anything. Paranormal, ghosts, let's not even go there. Cryptids, all these UFOs, same thing. People sometimes go out to certain places which have a reputation for, hey, we get a lot of sightings, and then nothing happens. All right. And like I said, it's when you're dedicated that you keep going back, and keep going back, hoping to have that moment where you see or you witness, or sometimes you even feel, because like I've told everybody, and I don't know if it's because I have had so many years experience in this field when there wasn't that many gadgets. The human body is one of the best instruments that there is when it comes to paranormal work or investigations. You can attune it, especially if you trust it, to when it acts a certain way or you feel a certain thing, something is happening. And by this, I'm not saying you have to be psychic or whatever. You could consider, but your body will respond. And I would say the human body is one of the most powerful instruments that there is. I've been on investigations where all of us in a team have had some feeling before a piece of equipment goes off. Okay? Before a piece of equipment goes off. That's happened to me personally. All right? So it's the human, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is that with a lot of investigations, you see a lot of emphasis, and I know it's for the purpose of producing proof. We over rely on a lot of these different gadgets, whereas the human body, you cannot beat it because maybe of what we're composed of versus machinery. And then, of course, the truth is, if we experience anything, whatever the experience is, whether it's visual, clairaudient, whatever, of course we can't reproduce it. Unless you happen to be recording and you say, I feel this, and then you have a piece of equipment go off, and then you could say, okay, it jives that, but, whatever we can produce as human beings, really, we can't reproduce it as proof. But I love talking to Bryan. I got to bring him back because we could go through a lot of stories, and hopefully we can even convince Al Santariga to come back, and maybe we could do bring them in split screen, all three of them, because they've got great stories and they've had encounters with cryptids, with Bigfoot, with UFOs, and I remember one time Al, and if you go back in one of my earliest shows, I think what I did with him, he describes how he has a sister back in the 70s that lived here in Florida, in South Florida, and he came and spent a summer with her, and he had a Bigfoot encounter with what Florida's Bigfoot is called skunk ape, where this thing was even because where his sister was living at was an area in Florida called Davie, which back when he was talking about in the 70s was very rural cowboy, horse, cattle thing. And they had, in that instance, some case of missing cattle. And yeah, really interesting stuff. That's why when he said about Al's experience in the 70s here in Florida, that's what we were talking about. But anyway, guys, this has been a really long interview. Please go to MiamiGhostChronicles.com or mppellicer.com. There you have links to all the shows, whether it's the video version, whether it's the podcast version, to different podcast platforms. Again, if you want to listen to anything, the podcast especially, without commercial interruptions, I have a link there where you can listen to it from your browser or download the MP3. All right. Again, you can sign up for my Substack articles. All right, which I usually put out 2 or 3 a week, and I do crazy articles, and I'll send out some of my really old videos sometimes from 5 years ago, which are great. And then some newer stuff. I always attach something, and that's, if it weird is your bag, baby, sign up for my Substack newsletter. So I really do appreciate that you guys come back every week and spend some time with me. Again, I have some great guests lined up. All right, I will be doing a live stream for Halloween again this year. Okay, as a matter of fact, I've lined up guests all the way up to Halloween, and I've left that spot open because this year it falls on a Monday. So I hope that all of you that had a great time partying for Halloween weekend will come and join me on Monday, Halloween night, and we'll get into some crazy stuff, ghost stories, true crime, whatever. We'll see where it takes us. Spend some time and listen to the weird stuff. Make your weird little heart happy. So until then, thank you. You are all wonderful.